I'm going to do this tomorrow. Then that korban is automatically puzzle. It's disqualified. God says, I don't want it anymore. So you could possibly make a kal v'chomer if mere thought cancels out the validity of a korban. Halachas kama v'kama, actually not bringing it on time, would cancel out. Now that's my contribution. The Gemara doesn't say that, but you'll see that it fits, okay? Because the very last word on hey, va'akati, nevertheless, me ben azai nafka. We learn the halacha that you do get the kapara from the statement of ben azai. Ben Azai teaches in a brayso. Ben Azai Omer, Oisoi. The pasuk referring to Pigel says is unacceptable. No, you could say Pigel is no good. Why do you have to say Pigel? It is no good. The Oso is an extra word. Lefisha ne'emar, lo tacher l'shalmo. If you forget or you delay bringing your payment, Shomeya ani, I might have thought, af ma'acha nidro bebal yirotze. I might have thought making a relationship to Pigel, that if the korban is actually brought late, that it's unacceptable to God. Shemo ani af ma'acha nidro bebal yirotze. It's unacceptable. Talmud lomer also. The pasuk limits to pigul mamish and not to bringing a korban late. Also below yerotze, only the pigul korban is unacceptable. V'yein mi'achen nidro bal lo yerotze, but when you're simply late with a korban, you're inappropriate behavior, but it is acceptable to God. It's not acceptable. A double negative makes a positive. So, pardon me? A neder. Neder is, I will bring a korban. The archetypal, it'll come up in a minute, so I'll explain. A neder is when you say, I will bring a korban, I will bring a shlomim, I will bring a chatzi, whatever the korban it is. A nedava is when you say, I will bring this shekel. And it's so the chov is on the animal, right? But and not on the person. And there are nafkaminis that we're going to get to. Ella v'chochet. So the pasuk says the sin is in the human who was delayed. Below be'ishtachachet. But the sin is not in his wife. What are we bringing wives in for? If I promise to make a neder, if I make a neder, if I make a nedava, what's my wife got to do with it? Not exactly. I mean, you could say that, but what we're saying over here, I might have drug in the following memra as an applicability here. Hoel the Yomer Rabbi Yochanan the Isaimer Rabbi Lazar, either Rabbi Yochanan or Rabbi Lazar made an astonishing statement. Okay, yeah, I lost my place. A married woman, does not die prematurely. Ella im kain, unless the following circumstance happens. Mevakshin mimenu mammon, a man made a pledge of money to a tzedakah or to the Bedek Abayis, and they come and they ask, I don't have it to pay, I'm not paying. In such a case, a man's wife dies. So if you're trying to get rid of your wife, stick the shul on your building fund. It's a lot cheaper than divorce. Shenemar, and if you think this is like out of left field, there's actually a pasuk that they bring. Im ein lecha l'shalem, If you don't have any money to pay your debt, means you refuse to pay your debt. You say, I ain't got to pay. Lama yikach mishachach why does God take your bed out from under you? That's a euphemism for wife. So, of course, the Meforshim jump on all this. And the circumstance the Meforshim explain is the husband talks, I made a big problem, honey. On Yom Kippur, I pledged $10,000 to the shul. And she says, we don't have it. We can't afford it. Don't you dare honor that pledge. So she is equally culpable. So the punishment is she dies, but that's also a punishment on him. He's being deprived of her companionship and other benefits. It's that she gives him. Okay, but that's so I could have linked though that concept to the guy who doesn't pay his korban. So we don't say that. So maybe if non-payment causes the demise of a wife, maybe delay causes the demise of the wife. Kamash stiftitstaka, if you want it to work, just putting them off is ineffective. That's that.
I don't know. Are we on?
We're going to come to paying on time, and we have to. Motzeis vasecha, you make what comes out of your mouth. Tishmar, you should guard. Va'asisa ka'asher nidarta, and you should do that which you pledge. Lashem Elokecha, to God your Lord. Nidava, your nidava offering. Asher dibarta b'picha, that you uttered from your mouth. Now, if that was an English sentence and it was written by a human being, an editor would jump all over it. It's a very awkward, overly wordy sentence. You make a promise, pay your pledge. Simple English. Why do you have to have this complex wording? So, of course, God is the author. Words. In this pasuk, words. We could talk about machshava, but in this pasuk, it's words, and the pasuk is too wordy.
Okay, he said it to himself.
He made a statement. All right, if you want, the halacha is, it's a machlokes, but the halacha is, if you think a specific amount to a specific charity in a manner not simply fleeting. In other words, you hear a beautiful speech by somebody from an orphanage, you say, really, I ought to give them some money. That's in your mind. That doesn't matter. But if you say, I will give that Mossad $100 in your mind, according to the Mordechai and brought in by both the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah, and by the latter poskim, it applies. Since you asked the question, it comes around like there are some very tricky inyanim. A schnorrer walks into the building, you're davening. You say to yourself, I'm going to give him $1. You take $1 out of your pocket. That dollar has to go to him. If you can't find him, the Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says you can put it in a tzedakah box. But others say it really belongs to him and you're not allowed to do that. You can take out the dollar and you have to say, I'll give it to him or another worthy charity. So you don't have to go chasing him to BRS to give him that dollar. And it may be that you have to use that exact piece of currency. Because you said, I'm giving this dollar, and it may be that dollar immediately becomes the property of but okay, but you asked, so I tried to answer. So at any rate, now we're going to darshan that pasuk. Motzes v'secha, the words came out of his mouth. Tana Rabbanan, they teach, zu mitzvah aseh. That creates the mitzvah aseh to give. Tishmor, you should guard or observe. Zu mitzvah lo saseh. That makes it, if you don't do it, in addition to violating an aseh, you're violating a lo saseh. The sisa, you should do it, or you must do it. Achzora lebezdin shia sucha. That is, gives authority, that's the ashara to the bezdin, that they can force you to meet your commitment. Ka'asher nedarta, that you vowed, zen neder. That applies to I will give. Lashem Elokecha, to God your Lord. Elochatos, Hashamas, Oilos, Ushlamim, that refers to various specific korbanos that you have obligations, each of which has its own requirements. Nidava, Kishmata, the way exactly, Nidava means Nidava. And we still have the end of the pasuk, Asher Dibarta, that you spoke. Ela Kadche Berekabayis, that is non-animal, non-korbanous contributions in money or kind to the Beit HaMikdash. And in the pasuk, that refers to charity. Now here, charity does not mean a contribution to UJA. The narrow meaning of the word charity, since we're talking deraisa, you have to be narrow, means giving money to a person who needs the money for food or clothing or shelter. That's the narrow definition of tzedakah. So we'll see. Omar mar, motzis vasecha, what comes out of your mouth. Ze mitzvah aseh, that's the mitzvah aseh lamali. What do I need that for? We learned already from Reb Meir, mi shabos shama v'hevasim shama, if you're nafka. We learn you have to do it promptly from when you come to Yerushalayim, bring the korbanos that you pledged. We learned that from Reb Meir earlier. So why do we have to have it in this pasuk? Tishmor, that there's a zun mitzvahs lo saseh, there's a negative commandment from this pasuk. Lamali, what do I need that for? Mi lo ta'acher l'shalma, do not nafka. We learn it from do not delay in paying. So we're learning the same set of halachas from two psukim. The sisa, you should do it. Azar lebezdin sucha lamali. Why do we have to learn this pasuk to tell you that bezdin has the authority to force you to pay? May yakrivo so nafka. We learn it from the pasuk. You must do the sacrifice. Okay, the Sanya, we have a brisa that spells it out. Yakrivoso, you have to bring the sacrifice you pledge. Malamid shekaifenoso, that the bezdin can literally force you. Yachol bebal korcho, but there's a problem with that. It does a carbon work if it's forced on the donor. That is no good. Talmud Lomer Lirtzainai. He has to bring it volitively. He has to bring it from his own free will. So we have a conflict. So how do you handle that? Okay, side. How do you resolve that conflict? You twist his arm until he says, okay, I agree to give it. I want to give it.
Like with a get.
Like with the get. This is the same. The bezdin has the authority to force you. Now, that is in a society where bezdin has temporal authority. In the United States, bezdin does not have that authority. You got to go extra legally to do that. Chad da'amer lo afrish. Now here, when you make a vow, what do? You say, congregation, this is all blinetter, what I'm saying. Congregation or Torah, I will give, and you fill in an amount. What if you only say the first part? You didn't say what you're going. Chad afrish v'lo akriv. Or another possibility is you state what you're going to do, and you don't do it. Literally, you pledge a korban and you don't sacrifice it. Tzricha, we need both of these concepts to apply halachically. Di'i ashminin oimar v'lo afrish. If you say, I pledge a korban, but you don't spell out which animal or which korban. Mishum delo kayame lidivore. Since you didn't finish up by saying the words, maybe it doesn't apply. Aval afrish v'lo akriv. But if you stipulate and then you don't actually give, that maybe he's not liable for the following reason. I'm giving this shepsel as a korban. So I specify this particular shepsel. My hat is now a shepsel. So I have certain obligations. That shepsel no longer belongs to me. So I'm not allowed to shear it. I'm not allowed to shecht it. I'm not allowed to use it as a beast of burden. I'm not allowed to work it. So what if I never do any of those things? This is God's sheep. And I undertake to feed and shelter and water that sheep. I have monetary and personal involvement at costs to me, but I never bring it. So I could tine it to you. I'm not liable. I never violated. It's God's sheep. Ki gaza the Rachmana Isay. I'm treating this as God's sheep. I didn't do anything wrong. Tzricha. Therefore, a pasuk is necessary to say, if you pledge it as a korban, you got to actually shecht it as a korban. De'i ashmein in afrish v'lo akriv. If the Torah only taught us, if you pledge it, you must sacrifice it. The previous case, I'm holding on to God's property. Aval Omar lo afrish, I haven't yet picked an animal. Ema debura lo klum. If I say I'll give to Torah but I don't spell out any terms or conditions, maybe I haven't really said anything. So we need both tzricha, we need both of these dinim.
What if you make a pledge and you say bli neder?
Then you said bli neder. It's not a pledge.
Doesn't hold any water.
It's meaningless, except all right. It's meaningless halachically. A bezdin could not force you to pay, but it is meaningful morally. So if you get an aliyah and you say, I'll give $50 bli neder, what you're saying is, if Rahman al-Islam I die, or if Rahman al-Islam I go bankrupt, or if Rahman al get completely, so then I'm not legally culpable, but the moral obligation still exists. The purpose of the bli neder is to eliminate the halachic culpability if you're an ones and you can't do it. But you still have the moral obligation. All right, in any event, so we listed charity as we talked about various korbanos, and then the last word in that pasuk we said charity. So I could have a havamina that just as I have 1, 2, 3, or a cycle of 3 till I'm over Baltacher, maybe I have the same with charity. It's in the same pasuk. That's the next topic on the table. Okay? Mahadesema. Kevan. Charity is mentioned in the same sentence. Shalosh regalim. The korbanos, the rule regarding 3 korbanos is 3 Jewish holidays. Kamash Malon. I would think that it's not like that with korbanos. Hasamhu the Talgionu Drachmana Beregolim. Korbanos, God gives you 3 Yom Tovim to bring them. Aval Hacha, when it comes to charity, lo. You have to do it immediately. There are plenty of dead people around. I have poor people around. I skipped. I'm sorry. I skipped the Picha Zuksaka, that's Tzedakah, Rava Tzedakah, Machayev Alter. Tzedakah you have to give immediately. My timer, Daha Kayame, Aniyim, because there are poor people there. Pshita, that's obvious, and then I just read that paragraph. Rava. Now, Kevan Sha'avar Alav Regel Echad. He says a single holiday, this was Rebbe Meir's opinion, a single holiday. If I make the pledge at Purim time, when I go El HaRegel for Pesach, I have to bring my korban. Over Aseh, you immediately violate the Aseh of bringing your korban. Meisvei, I argue with that. Hey, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Papias, these two rabbis testify, El Vlad Shlomim, Sheyakriv Shlomim. The halacha is, if you designate a pregnant sheep as a Shlomim, and she gives birth between the designation and the actual bringing her as a Shlomim, you've given her to God. So her baby, if it gets born, belongs to God. So that has to be a Shlomim too. So Omer Rav Papias tells us, Ani me'it shahoiselo Torah shel zivchei Shlomim. I had a cow that was going to be a korban holiday Shlomim. The Pesach. We ate her on Pesach. The Achlenu blood Shlomim b'chag, and we made her child a Shlomim on the Chag. Now, normally the word Chag means Sukkot, and we're going to assume Chag here for the moment means Sukkot. Baseline of the Pesach law, I understand why the baby wasn't brought on Pesach itself. Because we know the Mechusar's money. You can't bring an animal as a korban until it's at least 8 days old. So the baby could have been born on the 14th of Nisan, and it never hit 8 days during the holiday. So I understand it's going to be a chagiga. So I understand why I can't bring it on Pesach. I should have to bring it on as soon as possible. So made the Rava, we're given two answers. One possibility is as follows. Turn the page. The calf was sick on Shmini Atzeret. And that's a mum of, I'm sorry, on Shavuos. And therefore you can't bring it. It's a mum over. You have to wait till it heals. So you pass Shavuos. The next possible opportunity is to bring a chagiga. The next holiday, Chag Shavuos. We ate it on Shavuos. So the Gemara challenges, asks, the Edach, why didn't Reb Ziv give the same answer? He says, that standard use, when you're talking about Pesach and then Shavuos, you use the word atzeres for Shavuos. And since he mentioned he's ate the mami on Pesach, his use of the word chag did indeed mean sukkos, and that's why they had to come up with the answer the animal was sick and not that it meant the next holiday. But Amar Rabba, now here comes an interesting concept. A simple reading of this statement is, as soon as the 3 holiday cycle, but that can't really be the meaning, because if you're Tuesday in August. So let's see what's going on. Meisvei, we want to challenge that statement. And we challenge it in a very strange way. Whether we're talking about a Bechor, which is an intrinsic Kedusha as Kedusha, or Kol Hekdashim, any other korban where people are involved, if a year passes, but 3 holidays have not occurred, or Regalim, we'll get there, Regalim below Shana, or if 3 holidays occur, but it's less than a year, over Baltacher, you violate Baltacher. Okay. So how does this second statement, aside from its having internal problems we don't understand, how does that refute the previous statement? Amar of Kahana, that was a brilliant refutation, he says. Michti, let's look into this. Tana alave koi mahad. What the Tana is trying to tell you is what the lavin involved are. Listnei v'chol yom over baltacher. So when he say what it means to say is as soon as the 3 holidays pass or the year passes or whatever is the determinant for Baltacher, if it's May or it's just 1 holiday, that's the point at which you're over Baltacher. That's what he means to say. The other opinion would be Tana Midikabay Belavka Mahader. What he's trying to tell you is that once you have Baltache, that's a lav, the lav Yishere Loka Mahader, but he's not trying to pile on love in every single day's love. Now we're going to go back and we're going to answer your
You stay. What happened?
Don't know, I'm still here.
Thought it was just me.
Oh.
He disappeared. He disappeared on me. I don't know.
Oh, Shabbat Shalom.
All right. Have a good Shabbos. Be good.
Include 3 holidays. How would be the case? So the Gemara explains we do not have a date for Shavuos. Shavuos is 50 days after the second day of Pesach. Keep that in mind. Kidetani Rav Shmaya. Rav Shmaya makes the following observation. Atzeres, the holiday of Shavuos. Pa'amim Chamisha. Sometimes it comes out on the 5th of Sivan. Pa'amim Shisha. Sometimes it comes out on the 6th of Sivan. Pa'amim Shiva. Sometimes it comes out on the 7th of Sivan. Haketzad, how does that all happen? Shnehem Maleim Chamisha. If Nisan and Iyar are both 30-day months, remember the witnesses had to come, so they could have both been 30-day months, then Shavuos is on the 5th. Shnehem Maleim Chamisha. Shneim Chaserin Shiva. If both are 29-day months, then Sivan, then 5th of Sivan is 50 days later. I'm sorry, the 7th of Sivan is 50 days later, and that would be Shavuos. Echad mole v'echad chaser shisha. If one is full and one is not full, which is the normal pattern, Shavuos is the 6th. Now let's take a year where Shavuos. What?
That's only then. Today, this can't be.
That's correct. But we're talking then.
Right.
They're contemporary with they were still doing Al Pi Re'iyah. So let's say you make a pledge on the 6th of Sivan at 2 p.m, and we're going Me'es La'es. You must meet your requirement by the 159:59 on the 6th of Sivan the following year. But that year, Shavuos is on the 7th. So you can have a full calendar year with only 2 holidays. Pelagic, but that's the Gemara. Chad Moli v'chad Chassid. Okay, so Pesach and Sukkot. He makes the pledge on the 6th of Sivan. Shavuos was the 5th that year. He makes the pledge on the 6th. Sukkot and Chag HaMatzos comes, and then the 6th, but the next year it's on the 7th. So he has no Shavuos. Shavuos was gone when he made the pledge, and Shavuos is not yet come when he's got to redeem the pledge. So you have even according to the Rabbanan, you have a year without 3 holidays.
When the Torah says Shiva Shavuos.
7 weeks. That's plus and the next day is Shavuos. That's 50 days. That's a fixed number, no matter what happens in the calendar and with the moon.
It's a very clever idea.
Okay, weiter. Oman Tana de Paliga later Reb Shmaya. Who disagrees with Reb Shmaya? Acherim, who? It's a group of rabbis called Acherim, or alternately, it's Reb Meir. Tesanya, we have a brisa. Acherim Omrim. Others say there are. What we're about to do is we're about to say what is in terms of days of the week. What is the calendaric difference between this year and next year? I.e., if a holiday is on Sunday, when will that holiday be next year? Which day of the week? Okay? And that's the question on the table. Okay? Ein bein atzeres la'atzeres. The only difference between Atzeres this year, calendarically, or rather days of the weekly, between this year Shavuos and next year Shavuos, the Ein Bein Rosh Hashanah LaRosh Hashanah, or similarly, Rosh Hashanah is on Sunday this year. What day of the week will it be next year? Ela Arba Yomim Bilvad. It's always 4 days. So if Rosh Hashanah is Sunday and Monday, again, we have adjustments to the calendar, so it doesn't come out on certain days. But If the Rosh Hashanah is Sunday 1 year, it'll be Thursday the next year. If Shavuos is Tuesday 1 year, it'll be Friday the next year. Vim hoisa shana me'uberes. What if it's a 13-month year? Then it will be Sunday, Friday, or Tuesday, Shabbos. Okay? Chamisha, 5 days. So that is an argument because this is your point, Doc, that Shavuos is always the 6th because otherwise this calculation wouldn't work. So he's arguing. Boy, Reb Zera asks a new question. We had earlier, if the cow dies, remember, we had, I'm designating this cow as a shlamim, and the cow died after 2 holidays. When does Baal Tacher kick in? Is it on the animal or is it on the Gavra? We had that discussion earlier. Yes, you're looking at me blankly.
Yeah.
Okay, nod affirmatively so I can go weiter.
He specified that animal, he's fucked.
That's if it's an adava. We're talking about a neder. All right, in any event.
Even on a nether, I specified this behavior.
We learned this 2 days ago, that if the animal dies, we reset and the new animal starts a new count. That's what we learned earlier. Now we're going to ask, that's on the animal. The changes in the animal. The animal disappeared, we got a new one. The animal died, we replaced it. That's on the animal. What if the owner changes?
That's a difference.
That's the next question. Boy, Reb Zera asked the following question. Yoresh Mahu Baltacher. Shimon dies, his son Reuven inherits the cow after 2 holidays. Do we reset or not? The question was on the animal before, now it's on the owner. Okay? Ki Siddur Neder Amar Rachmana. On the one hand, the pasuk says, when you make a vow, the kid never made a vow. So maybe the kid doesn't have Baltacher whatsoever. V'halo Noder. The son made no Neder. Maybe there's no Baltacher at all on him. Oy Dilma, or perhaps there is no change in the animal. The animal has still got Kedusha. It still must be brought as a korban. So we kick back to Reb Meir's initial statement. Basa shama vehevisem shama. When you come to Jerusalem, bring the animal and check it. It's irrelevant who the owner was, and the son is over Baltacher if he fails to do so. So v'ho mechayev, and thus the son is obligated and is over Baltacher. So we got to figure this out. So we learned this pasuk earlier. We had a pasuk me'imach. It yours. Okay, when you make the vow. Toshma, let's look into it. V'tonei Reb Chia says me'imach. The word me'imach means that the father was obligated, but the kid isn't prat liyoresh, excluding a Baltacher obligation on the son. But that's a problem, because 3 days ago, we learned me'imach, and we used it in a drasha. So it's now no longer a free word. We can't use it twice. V'hai me'imach meboile. We already used me'imach in a drasha. We said that refers to, if you're a landowner, to the granular obligations. If it falls, if you leave it, you have to intentionally leave a corner. That we already covered that word. So the answer is korabe imach. The word me imach is the word imach with a preface. So let's apply just the imach to lekashich v'peya, and you have the mem korebe me imach to be to prat liyoresh. So the halacha comes out that the son has no baltacher obligation. He has to bring the animal, but delaying is not a sin for him. Okay. Now, what about a lady? If a lady makes a neder or an adava, women can offer korbanos. Sometimes they have to. What about a lady? Isha mahi baltacher. Does baltacher apply to women? Me amrinin ha de machayva v're'iyah. Do we say that when a woman goes to Jerusalem, even though she's not obligated to, if she chooses to, she also can't go empty-handed and has to bring a korban re'iyah? Or maybe she is only obligated in simcha, which is a shlamim, a korban chagiga. It's a shlamim. So she would have a baltacher obligation. That's the havamina.
Only by Shlom.
Well, correct, maybe by but certainly by shlamim, by at least one of them. At this point, the havamina is she is chayev because she has to be misameach and yontiv. Amr le Abaye, the typically the ha asa b'simcha. Let her say, he spells it out. Let us paskin. She doesn't have to bring a re'iyah because she isn't obligated to go, but she does have to bring a shlamim, or at least share in a shlamim. So she could be over baltacha. Omi Amar Abaya hachi. Could Rabaya really have said that? For Amar Abaya, Isha Baila misamcha. A woman has no individual obligation in simcha. Her husband is obligated to keep her happy. Her husband has to bring a korban simcha, and he has to offer her to eat. So she has no obligation on her own. So Abaya could not have said that she is obligated. L'dvarav the Rebbe Zera Amar. So what Abaya was doing is, look, I don't think she's obligated, but according to Rebbe Zera, she is obligated. That's what went on there. Now, we mentioned in the chain a bachor, and we know that a bachor is intrinsically got kedusha, and you have 1 year in which to shecht it and bring it as a korban. When does the year start? We also know that you can't bring a korban until it's 8 days old. So you could logically say it starts the moment of birth, or you could logically say it's 8 days later, Meis Leis. That's when the year starts, because that's the first time it could be brought as a korban. So we're actually going to give both answers. Abaya Omer Mishashanalad. Abaya says the minute it's born, that's when the clock starts ticking. Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Aimer Mishashanira Lahartza. From the moment it's valid as a korban, which is the 8th day. So we think that's a machlokes, right? Nope, it's not. The lo plige, they're not arguing. They're talking about different circumstances. If the animal is born with a mum, then it's not brought as a sacrifice. So one is saying the moment of birth, if it's born with a mum, counts its year that the Kohen has to sell it or eat it. And the other is talking about when it's healthy and perfectly unflawed and it's brought as a korban, you start at 8 days. Ha, batam. One is talking about a perfectly unflawed animal, and we'll just turn the page. Ha, balmum. We're talking about a flawed animal. So rather than leave you hanging, I'll do one more sentence. Balmum mi motze achile. Can you actually kill and eat a balmum? Now, there are 2 kinds of mumen with regard to a bachor. One is if the animal's born without an ear. If it's mamish mutant or damaged in the birth canal as it's born. So then it's a mum. Another is if it's premature, then it's also called a mum. Now, the halacha with a premature animal is you have to wait a full 30 days before you can do anything with it because it might be a treifa. It might be so flawed because it's premature that it can't live. We say that an 8-month baby can't live. So the kumle be shekulu chodoshav. This animal, we know for sure the bull visited that cow on a certain date, and it's a full-term baby, and it's born with a mum not related to being premature. And we'll stop there.
Thank you, Mordechai.
Okay, bye-bye. Have a good Shabbos, everyone. Ruvain will be Sunday. I don't know.
Well, that's bad.
Oh.